am not an African American. I have zero ties to Africa.
We're not African Americans. We're Sudanese Americans.
Yes.
We are African Americans because Sudan is in Africa. So, and that's why some Black Americans say they don't want to be called African Americans because they don't feel like they have any ties to Africa.
Glad to have you, amazing viewer. It's your first time here. You're most welcome. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. This is the place to be. For my returning subscribers, I appreciate your love and support for my content. Thank you so much for your comments. Thank you so much for interacting. I don't really take for granted the fact that you are spending your precious time on my channel. Thank you so much. And this video is a compilation of TikTok videos. I must mention that. But also we'll be looking at this topic. So let me pause here on a question first. Why is the term African American not satisfying to Black American in America right now? Why is it not satisfying, and what is missing in that term? Is there something missing in that term? So we'll be listening to people's point of view, and those who just don't want to hear like being called African American, they don't want to be referred to as African American. But also there is also a kind of confusion, like they are African American, let me say Black American, who believe to have no ties with Africa. So they have nothing links them to the motherland that is always called Africa, while others say it can be possible. So there is also another question: are all African, Black American in America right now sent from Africa? So I want us to listen to people's point of view, but also don't forget to leave your thoughts. Kindly learn to interact. The more I continued on, the more I got even confused, because people have different views. Like, it's so confusing. So even the things that are happening during slavery make even the history more confusing. So it's hard. It's really hard. But yeah, let's find out if you have any thought on this. But also, don't forget to also do your further research. If you hear something here that you really don't believe, I don't really call you to believe everything that you hear here. So you can do your further research and also educate ourselves. Let's educate ourselves in this history month. Continue on.
Africans are Black and African Americans are brown. This is 100% wrong.
You have said that you resent the idea of being called an African American, that
Yes.
you are a Black American.
Yes.
Explain.
I think that when they call Black people who were born and raised for generations in this country, if you accept the handle of African American, that says that you don't accept being an American American. You don't accept being born in Chicago or New York or Detroit or wherever you were born. For generations your family has been here, you know. Built this country too. Sweat and tears and all that, you know, fought in every war, okay? So this is my country here. So I don't want to be called African American. I'm an American American. My people have died and done everything for this country.
I want to take the African part of African American off of African Americans, of Black people in America who were born here. I don't know, there's just something about it. White people are not called European Americans, Scottish Americans, British Americans. They're just Americans or Caucasian. So I think we should just be Black. Black Americans. Cool. Or brown Americans. If you're born here, you're American. I don't know. I think there's something there that doesn't sit well.
Okay, how did all Americans end up calling Black people African American? Not all Black people come from Africa. I've always been confused by this, and I actually asked an American friend of mine because I didn't grow up in America, and she seemed mind blown. She could give me an answer, and I'm not hating, I'm just curious.
So I wanted to publicly respond to this comment because I think that many people may be confused by this. The term African American refers to descendants of Africans who were enslaved in America and forcibly brought here and enslaved. That is African American. It is different than someone who freely came from their country in Africa, or their parents freely came to America from their country in Africa. An example of that would be someone who is originally from Nigeria or from Ghana. They would be properly referred to as Nigerian American or or Ghanaian American. The reason why African Americans use this term is because we actually do not know the exact country that our ancestors came from. All we know for certain is that they came from the continent of Africa, which is why we refer to ourselves as African Americans.
Africans see African Americans as Africans. You're gonna have people that say, oh, Africans don't see African Americans as Africans, they see us as foreigners. I've been to the African continent. I've lived on the African continent. I studied at the University of Johannesburg for an exchange program. One of the questions I was constantly asked was, where are you from? I'd say the United States. They would ask me, where are you really from? They're implying an African country. Because as a Black American, when you are on the African continent, Africans don't know you're from the States until you start speaking. They assume you're just another African. So I would have to say a region in Africa because I'm not sure, because of the slave trade. But because we as African Americans, as well as Afro-Caribbeans and those in the diaspora, are Black, we blend in. This is why I don't like this whole African versus African Americans versus Afro-Caribbean. Y'all acting like if we dropped y'all in Nigeria, if we dropped y'all in Haiti, if we dropped y'all in the Bahamas, that they finna know you from the States. Yeah, when you start talking, they're gonna know, okay, he has an accent, where is he from? But until that point is asked, you just another African person walking around in the society. Just like you got this debate between African American culture, Afro-Caribbean culture, and African. Like we don't exchange from one another. Like you a Black American ain't African, but you eating yams and okra all the time. You an African who said we ain't got no connection with African Americans, but you listening to hip hop and Afrobeat. You say you ain't Afro-Caribbean, but some of your ancestors come from the Barbados and Haiti, Jamaica, and the Bahamas. Well, Jabari, we weren't born there. We aren't from there. They're gonna know we're different. Yeah, just like a Black person from Mississippi is different from a Black person in Ohio. A Black person from the Bronx is different from a Black person who's from LA. A Black person from Enugu is different from a Black person in Kano. A Black person from Johannesburg is different from a Black person from Cape Town. Quit the unnecessary divisions. Africans see African Americans as well as other members of the diaspora as Africans. That don't mean it's kumbaya. It means we are part of the African family, whether or not you live on the continent or abroad. I will go even further and say African American, along with Afro-Caribbean and Afro-Latino culture, all are part of African culture. They are subsets unique to their own circumstances. And y'all can rep your culture, because that's what makes African culture special.
Many Americans are unaware that only about 6% of all Africans shipped across the Atlantic were taken in North America. The largest numbers went to Brazil, to the Caribbean.
And I want you guys to know this. It is distorted. They act like America was the beacon of the first slaves to ever exist, and that we had all the slaves that exist in the region, and we were the worst. That's not true. And everybody's complaining about America, which the North was free and the South was the only people that had slaves. And we complain about the entire United States of America. Yet South America was dominated in the slave trade.
It's comments like this that had me convinced y'all done lost y'all African mind. Y'all done lost y'all damn African mind. You mean to tell me we're not African, we are native Black Americans, like we organically sprung up in North America and we don't have any connection with Africa? You done lost your damn African mind, believe in that. Now, I made several posts about this, but I'm gonna say it again. African Americans living in America possess at least 73% of Niger Codophonia DNA, meaning that we come from the continent of Africa, not no damn North America. But I know majority of you guys don't like taking DNA tests because y'all think it's the white man's science, or y'all don't believe in it or something like that. But let one of your cousins get locked up, and the only thing that can get his ass out is a DNA test. Y'all believe in it then. Let one of your cousins get a call from a girl and say, yo, It's your baby. I bet y'all be taking DNA test then to determine that he's not the father. It works when it works for you, right? But y'all don't believe in science. Y'all rather go around on TikTok and listen to these fake ass screenshot, copy and paste historians who don't give you guys enough information on the subject matter. And y'all are eating it up like sheep. It is clearly dangerous for the community because y'all done lost your African minds and you're quickly losing your African integrity. And another thing, if y'all hate people lying all in the videos talking about you ain't Africa, come to death row. If y'all tired of people screenshotting, copy and pasting history and not giving y'all no book reference, come to death row. Because it's Team Africa all day, every day. Shout out to the Zulus, shout out to the Igbos, shout out to the Hausa tribe, shout out to the Fulanis. Never family, turn your back on your ancestral homeland.
If you take black people here in America and you do their DNA sample and it point back to Africa, what does that say? It says black people in America are Africans. Now, the argument is, were we brought here or were we already here? Did we bring ourselves here or did the white man bring us here? You see, when you say the white man brought us here, what you're doing is you're removing our ability to transport ourselves. You're saying, oh, we didn't know anything about boats. That's what you're trying to tell me. You're trying to tell me that we didn't know that there was a landmass here. Only the holy white man knew there was land to the west. But when you look at the holy white man, he said, when we got here, we met black people. Go look at the primary source. We got here, we met black people. We got the Caribbean, we met black people. You think the Caribbean is right next to America and they weren't in America? That's interesting.
Not African. We are not African, nor are we African American. That name Africa was given to those people on that continent for us to believe over here that those are the only people that we have. What about the black people in Australia? How did they get in Australia? What about the black people in New Guinea, in New Zealand? How did they get over there? What about the black people in China, the black people in Russia, the black people in South America, North America? How did they get there? We are original people of the planet Earth. The whole planet was black at one time. All right? That's what it is. We are not African. We are original people of the planet Earth. We are not African. Get that out of your head.
If life originated in Africa and the original man, woman are from Africa, how do we explain Europeans, Asians, maybe even Latinos?
There's a great book written by probably the greatest archaeologist and cultural anthropologist in human history. Not black, but I would say he was the greatest of all time. I'm sure you know his name, Sheikh Anta Diop from Senegal. He wrote a book called The African Origin of Civilization. Everybody needs to read it. This was the scholar who snuck into, I don't want to say snuck, went into the temples of Kemet, took melanin, or should I say took pigment or skin off of the mummies of the pharaohs, came up with a melanin dosage test and proved that the kings and queens of Kemet had to be African based on the percentage of melanin in their skin. It was Sheikh Anta Diop who proved to the world that all 5 stages of modern man originated in Africa. The first stage of modern man, all African. Second stage, all African. Third, all African. Homo sapien, the 4th stage, all African. And then we're the 5th stage, Homo sapien sapien. It was only the Homo sapien sapien who left Africa. If the Homo sapien sapien, modern African, never leaves Africa, we never go into Europe, we never experience the Ice Age, Europeans never come, they never evolve. Asians never evolve. Indians never evolve. You don't get another race on earth if the African never leaves Africa. And for that reason, I would like to ask our great African ancestors, why in the hell did you leave the continent? Because if you didn't, we wouldn't be dealing with white supremacy.
In a previous video, I explained that the majority of our enslaved African ancestors brought into the United States were not from modern-day Nigeria. There were many from modern-day Nigeria, but they weren't the majority. Still, 60% of African Americans do have a lineage that points back to modern-day Nigeria. Our ancestors were being moved around from location to location through intra-trading. But also in 1807, Britain abolished the slave trade in the British Empire, and in 1808, the U.S. Congress banned importing enslaved Africans, but they didn't stop domestic trade of enslaved Africans. So enslavers focused on breeding. They actually had breeding camps in Virginia. And many of our ancestors in Virginia were Igbo. So, for example, if they took one Igbo man and forced him to breed or procreate with 60 African women of different ethnicities, and they each had a child, each of those 60 children would have Igbo DNA. This is where the overrepresentation comes from.